that. And then, 3D construction is something that's really quite important for them to play with.
Nice.
I always think having a big tub, like a Tupperware tub type of thing, you can pour stuff into for them to explore, whether that be flour, baking soda and some vinegar, even just water with a few different toys that you then can have them play with droppers and put things in. Those are some of my go-tos for very young children. And then as they move into that preschool time, that's when we start to introduce things like different types of crayons. I mean, I really do like the bigger, chunkier crayons that they can use. That's always really fun. Rollers are a really fun thing to have in there. And then honestly, anything from your recycling bin is just one of the best things that you can use. Bubble wrap and, cardboard tubes. And when they get a little bit older, introducing that washi tape can just be hours of absolute fun. And that's something that we wouldn't necessarily include in our art cart or our art place, but that's something that I feel like I can stick over there. I don't have to worry so much about them exploring that on their own.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to always be present necessarily, but it's also something fun that I can dive into with them. So that's some ideas of things that you can put in there. But I think everyone is set if you have some paper, you have some crayon, you have some a little watercolor set, and if you have some sort of way for them to do some sort of imprinting of stamping, moving from some sort of image transfer to another, since that's always something magical for young children.
Yeah.
But those are kind of my go-tos there.
Yeah. And I think, some of those things, in the beginning, what you were talking about, literally colorful blocks. Yes. I mean, those are brilliant tools in general for play. And I love that you include them in art activities. That is, in a way, that is an art activity. You are exposing a child to color. And I think just similar to a recent podcast episode we had with Kayla O'Neill, who is from Parenting Expert to Mom. She spoke all about tips about early literacy experiences. And, everything is early literacy, just like everything is art, just like everything is sensory, just like everything is music, Again, I cannot stress this enough, and I say it, I think, almost every time on the Strength in Words podcast. Early childhood, 0 to 3 at least, those first years are a period of holistic learning when we are exposing our children to all kinds of different types of experiences. They are integrating everything together, right? They're synthesizing information in every which way. And a fine motor activity is also a cognitive activity, is also a communication activity. We layer upon layer all this information and all these experiences, and that's how they learn. That's how they play. So I love that really what it comes down to and what I'm noticing you talking about these are open-ended experiences. That's the key, right?
It is the key because I feel like, and I don't feel it's research-based, right?
Yeah.
It's the more that you provide these types of manipulatives for your young children, they're going to make these connections on their own. And it just depends on where it happens and when. And so when they're very little, I always talk about those early childhood years, you're trying to help them make connections to see how they fit into the world of their family, right? And how they matter, and how that's why doing art activities that are tandem with your child, where they are contributing to it with you, is so important. And they can then see their place within their family. And then as they get older, you start giving them more tools and more experiences that are art-based that they can see how they're then relating to their local area. Then they can expand that and see how they relate to the world at large. And that's why I'm always with very young children, we don't do as much with art history because they're still trying to figure out I'm a sister in a family of 5. What does that mean? How does that work for me? And really, it's if they're able to then take these activities and kind of explore and see how that relates to everything else, then they're going to be able to make those connections to art history later on. It's all going to just come together.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I just want to show you this because I feel like this integrates it really well. This is for our most recent box, but all of our boxes have this ready, set, go in it, where it's this idea of a warm-up.
Yeah.
And we're doing hand kites this month, and so it's just to play with color, to put things on, to play with these really fun textures, and then to give the kids something to actually do in their bodies, so that they're then interacting with this concept of visual movement, and that visual movement of art, that art doesn't just have to be something you create on a page.
And for all those people who are listening to the podcast, tell us what you're holding up, Julia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I know.
I'm holding up the little bag, and mean, it's got all of the materials in it to create these little wooden hand kites. So they come with 2 wooden rings that are solid wood, and then these beautiful silk ribbons that you tie on. And it's an early tying experience and figuring out how to loop things through a circle.
Nice.
So, and that's something that they can then hold.
Yes, exactly. I love this kind of stuff too, because your KidArtLit kits are technically for like the preschool and above age, yes. But something like that and all of these open-ended materials again, and these beautiful books and any kind of process art is absolutely applicable to our infants and toddlers as well. And they are just going to be using them at a different level. It doesn't mean that they can't interact with them. I mean, a hand kite like that, literally a wooden circle and some ribbon is an amazing toy for an infant. Like, that's great. They can mouth it. They can hold it up. You can hold it above them and dangle the ribbons. Like, that's awesome. So for anyone who's listening who has, say a preschooler and an infant, or just a, say, 11-month-old and above, like, such great ideas. All of these kinds of ideas that Julia's talking about can absolutely be applied to all age groups in that early set. All right, let's hear a few other tips. You've got all kinds of gold for us, I know.
Well, our other thing, like Megan and I always talk about how to make books accessible. So having them around your home in little book baskets and things so that children can go in and get them. And then having them there and kind of having a library that you can pull from. I'm a really lazy book mom, to be honest. Like, I don't rotate things as often as I should. I kind of let my children do it.
There is no should, Julia.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, no, there's not. But I always have found that having these little nooks around our home that have books in them have really lent to just these little quiet moments of my kids, sitting there and opening and exploring, because a book in itself is an exploration of art in so many ways, of looking at the way that the words come together on a page and looking at how the images tell that story, whether or not your child can read. It's something that they can really build upon themselves. So scattering them around your home and in a contained way is something that we've always found and have advocated for, and that the more that you have in your home, it just starts to come more naturally for your children to really connect in to reading. Yeah,
that interest in books. Yep, everywhere.
Yes,
books everywhere.
Yes. And then let's see. So I had one other one, which was that in a lot of ways, working with process art with your kids, I know that for a lot of parents that this can cause a lot of that feeling of overwhelm. Like, I gotta set this all up, and I need to put these things out, and how am I gonna do this? And I just, I always want to say, like, you are enough. You are really what your child needs. That's really what they are seeking, is that eye contact, that time on your lap of connecting, and then sitting with you and working through something together, and providing that space. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It can be a small space you clear on your dining room table for a moment. It can be a space on your patio outside. That art can happen anywhere at any time, and that you don't have to have a whole full cabinet of things to do this with your kids. You can go take a walk outside and go on a search for colors and hunt for them together. And that there's so many ways to integrate these things and these great literacy, learning, and art development just by being in existence together.
I love
and that's really what they're craving, right? And so, but we find that families can feel very overwhelmed by this, like, again, with that should, right? I should do this and I should do that. And that's where our KidArtLit boxes come into play. It's like, when you feel so overwhelmed, it's like, okay, it just shows up. You do it when it makes sense to you. But really, in all honesty, it's like, feel free to connect with your kids in these ways whenever you want. It's always available. So we just want to make, if you're looking for something that's a way to broaden this perspective, or if it's not your cup of tea, because it's not everyone's, this makes it easier. But that you can easily do this in your home on a regular basis with, again, those rainbow blocks.
Yeah, I love that.
Basket of books.
It's great. I think what I love about your KidArtLit boxes are the fact that they're simply that. It's like, here is an example of what you can do now with all these materials, and from all those materials and the guide that we're giving you in order to understand all the different ways that you can use these materials, go forth and think about ways that you can use the other materials that are also in your home all the time. It's great.
All the time.
Love it.